Hello, church. This is Pastor Ben checking in. I wanted to take a moment to talk about the fact that the news has been dominated pretty much by one thing, that is the coronavirus or the COVID-19 virus. I know that some anxiety has arisen amongst churches as a result, and so I thought it might be a good idea to check in with you and kind of tell you where we are, both as your pastor and as your stated clerk of the presbytery. The resource presbyter, Karen Seamus, and myself have had multiple conversations about the status of the virus. We have also had multiple conversations about how to react to it. So I think you'll be seeing some of that information disseminated by Karen as we move forward. In the meantime, we know that as of this moment, there are about 173 reported cases in the state of New York. We know that chances are there will be significantly more when all is said and done. We know that as of right now, Cayuga County, which is where we are, has not been particularly affected. But it is probably inevitable that Cayuga County will be affected at some point. So we need to keep that sort of in mind, not as a panic button, but just as a factual concept. Speaking of, it is important in these moments of kind of national anxiety or local anxiety that we spend some time arming ourselves with actual facts. Um, the internet, in all of its wonder, can also be a source of consistent confusion and dissemination of nonsense. So the reality is that we have access to very smart, capable, talented people who are working on this COVID-19 issue, who actually know what they're doing and actually know what the facts are. So you can go to places like cdc.gov, newyorkny.gov. I will post links in the comment section under this video. You can go there. New York State has a really, really good website built around how to prevent and how to respond to this virus, keeping track of the number of cases and whatnot. So the understanding as of right now is that we have access to certain preventative measures as churches, as communities, as people. Some as simple as washing your hands on a consistent basis and washing them for long enough. Some people sing happy birthday while they wash their hands. I'm a minister, I sing Amazing Grace while I'm washing my hands. You guys can obviously do that too. Hand sanitizer has become a hot ticket item and is very useful. So consider carrying hand sanitizer. Our church will have hand sanitizer on in constant stock, ready for you. Also, in churches, we have started to look at things like social distance. For example, the passing of the peace is not quite the same. So instead of shaking hands or hugging or doing the things that would bring us into close contact, we can say peace from across the room. We can find other ways to sort of express God's love and our love for each other. The Lord's peace be with you can be said at any distance. So again, use your judgment as we look into those things, but don't be offended if folks don't want to shake hands or don't want a big old hug. People are choosing what their social distance looks like right now. In the same way, you are probably hearing stories that churches are canceling Sunday worship in certain scenarios. As of right now, the Seattle Presbytery has done so with good reason. Washington State has been hammered, has been ground zero for this virus in large concentration. And so that decision is reasonable. At this moment, there is no plan for Scipioville Presbyterian Church to stop holding Sunday worship as usual. That said, I want to make one other thing very clear. As Karen and I have been talking about the situation, worship will happen. regardless of the circumstances that surround us. That may mean that worship does not happen in a sanctuary space. That may mean that worship doesn't happen in close proximity to one another. But we have access to unique and wonderful technologies that will allow us to worship regardless of whether we can be in a building together or not. So I want to say this as your pastor. No matter what happens, Scipioville Presbyterian Church will praise and worship God, will praise and worship Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit every week, regardless of whether we are in this building or not. So it's important to know that. Worship can happen. Church can be church in multiple settings, in multiple ways. So we will definitely continue worshiping. Session and myself monitor the situation and will make decisions according to whatever factual information we have access to at the time. But we will worship. And even for folks who may not be inclined to be technologically talented and folks who may not have access to technology, we will find a way to get you access to the things you would need to feel that sense of community and that sense of worship. Presbytery is, Karen and I and some other folks have been looking at ways to do this on a larger presbytery level. So I think in general, this is a unique time for us to look at some pretty interesting ways of doing church in ways that may not have really been on the plate some time ago. We are kind of being led into a moment of discernment about what it looks like to do church, perhaps through technology, perhaps through other means. So some real good could come out of this need to look at how we worship together. For now, I think the most important thing is to continue to give yourself access to factual information. The internet, as I said, can be a dangerous place. So go to trusted places to find this information, as simple as the New York State website or the CDC website. This virus is being followed by some very talented, intellectually amazing human beings who are working on things like vaccines and ways to treat. So use your own judgment about how much you want to be out in the world. If you're sick, stay home. If you're sick and you don't want to miss too much of the church experience, let me know. I'll figure something out. If you're concerned that you may have a compromised immune system because of some other circumstances, protect yourself. We'll find a way to keep you connected to your church. So don't let that be a worry or consideration that stops you from protecting yourself. Reach out to me if you need to. Reach out to any member of this church if you need to. Reach out to your deacons and your elders if you need to. We will find a way to be the church together no matter what happens. Again, there are practical things we can do. There are common sense things we can do. The situation continues to be monitored by myself, by other folks at presbytery level, by leadership in the churches, and we will make decisions as we have access to new factual information. But I cannot stress enough that no matter what happens, we will find ways to be community together, we will find ways to worship together, and we will continue to be the church. Scipioville Presbyterian Church will not lie down because of this particular outbreak. We will continue to thrive, and we will continue to exist, and we will continue to be the church together. So that said, folks, pray for those who are affected by this pandemic. Pray for those who are working to end this pandemic. And pray for those who are discerning ways to care for themselves and protect themselves from this virus. I wish you God's peace, and I will see you on Sunday. God bless.